Well, I want you to know, in case you have been asleep, this is December. What has happened to this year? Do you know it is 1 week from Christmas? Uh-oh. How does that make you feel? 1 week to Christmas. Does your body prickle with, oh my gosh, I have so much to do? Or can you relax and say, yes, bring it on? Some people, they just want the holiday to be over because it's not a happy time for them. But this is December, and December is the season of light. And so many world religions are talking about light and celebrating the light. In Christianity, they're celebrating the birth of the Christ child. Christ came as a light to the world. And we have the Christ consciousness in us. And therefore we are also a light to the world. In the Jewish tradition, they're getting ready to celebrate Hanukkah. Hanukkah is the festival of light, right? They're celebrating that God provided oil in the lamp for 8 days instead of just 1 day, which was all the oil they thought they had. Miraculous. The light was there. It was provided. Let's celebrate, right? Kwanzaa, for the African American and African community, celebrates community values. Let's look at what creates a great community here. And they celebrate by lighting candles and having festivals and having meals. I learned this one recently. Muslims in December celebrate Muhammad's birthday. Let's have birthday candles. Let's celebrate Muhammad. He was our great prophet. Isn't it amazing how in December all these different religions, all these different people are coming together and celebrating light. Celebrating what they have to bring to the world. The goodness that's there. Do you have goodness in your life? Are you willing to see it? So that's my talk today, is presence or presence. Is it about the gifts we're giving? Or is it about how we show up in the world? The presence that we become? Is your holiday time, whatever your celebration is it about worrying to have the perfect gift for somebody? Or is it preparing yourself so that you're in alignment with your spiritual nature and you're there to be the divine, to be the love that somebody needs? That could be a listening ear. It could be somebody to hold their hand. It can be a listening ear, a compassionate listening project. There you go, Neshama. See? What a gift you're giving the world. How you have done that. And we do that all the time. You visit somebody in the hospital or somebody in their home, and the best gift you can give them is your presence of being there, of listening, letting your heart open to them. And as you do that, I can assure you that your heart gets much more than theirs does. So I have a story I want to share with you because I like this story. How are we going to show up in the world? This little girl was sent some money by her grandparents, and so she went shopping for her Christmas present. Well, she was looking for the perfect Barbie doll. And so she was in the store, and she was looking at all these Barbie dolls. And she went through all the shelves, and she was picking each one up and just feeling the love from it and what she could do and how she could show her friends. She found the perfect Barbie doll. It was going to make her the envy of every girl that she was friends with. But as she was choosing this, she noticed this little boy who came into the department store with his father, and they were over in another aisle that she could see. And the little boy was not dressed quite as nice as she was. And his jacket looked like it was probably a couple sizes too small. And he had some money in his fist, but she thought it probably was just $5. And he was looking at all these Pokemon videos and the Pokemon toys. And every time he would pick one up, he'd look up at his dad, and his dad would shake his head. And he'd put it down, and he'd go to something else, and he'd pick it up and look at his dad, and his dad would shake his head. And the girl became very intrigued. She was holding her Barbie doll to her, watching this little boy. And she watched this unfold for a good while. And then finally, the boy's father said something to him, and the boy reluctantly picked up something that looked like some Pokemon stickers and walked off to another aisle. The little girl said something to her father, and she put her Barbie doll back. She went running over to the Pokemon toys, and she picked up the video that was on top, the one that he had been looking at. She looked at her dad, and she shook her head, and she went running up to the cash register. She checked out. She paid for the Pokemon video. And when the cashier handed her the bag, she handed it back. And she whispered something to the cashier. And then as the girl turned, she saw that the little boy was 2 people behind her in line. So she and her dad went over and stood by the door. When the little boy came up, he gave her the Pokemon stickers and paid his money for them. And the cashier said, "Congratulations! You are the 100th customer today! You win a prize!" And she reached under the counter and she pulled out the bag that the little girl had paid for and gave it to this boy. He opened it and was just appalled. Oh my gosh. He turned to his father and he said, "This is exactly what I wanted. Oh, I can't believe this. It's great." And the little girl turned and took her daddy's hand and started to walk out of the place. Her dad, holding her hand, said, "Honey, why did you do that?" She said, "Daddy, didn't Grandma and Grandpa say that they wanted me to buy something that would make me happy?" And he said, "Well, sure." And she just skipped off to the car. Somehow, I believe that girl ended up with a very nice Barbie doll that Christmas. How do we show up in the world? Are we willing to be aware of what's going on around us? Sometimes we get so caught up in ourselves that poor me tends to come out. Or maybe I'm the only one that's ever done that. Speak for myself. But are we aware of what's going on and that there are people in need around us and things that we could do very easily to help lift somebody else up? Are we willing to do that? I walk through this mall a lot near our house, and sometimes I'll go there just to walk because it's air conditioned. And I was walking through there and I knew there was this table off to the side, and because the big school in the area has gift wrapping all at the end of the mall, so it takes up all the prime space. But there's this little table sitting off to the side, and it's Miss T's food pantry. Well, Miss T has been there, and I've seen her multiple days, and so I went over to see what she was doing. She was thrilled that somebody came up to her table, and she was trying to do an angel tree. And she has these kids that are at risk that come into her food pantry, and she feeds them. And she wanted to provide something for them for Christmas. So she had little cards where she had written their names, their ages, and she gave them 3 choices of what would you like for Christmas. And then you could choose one of those, buy the gift, and bring it back. Well, I'm like, I don't know that I can really do this. I don't mind buying the gift, but what if I choose the wrong thing? And, sometimes our minds can really do a number on us that keep us from doing good in the world. So the other day I happened to be walking through there, and I told her, I said, I'll come back before Christmas, I'll do something. Maybe I'll just give you some money and you can go shopping. She said, well, whatever works best for you. She was very gracious about it. And so the other day I walked into Target, they had bicycles on sale, used bicycles, and I knew that there was at least 3 people I had seen that wanted a bicycle for Christmas. So I bought the bicycle. You can't buy a bicycle without buying a helmet, right? So I got them a helmet too, and I took it out to Miss T, and I said, I know I haven't chosen a name, but I want to give you this, because I know that there were a number of kids with a bicycle on their list. And so I took the bicycle up, and she was thrilled, and we started looking through the list. We couldn't find anybody that wanted a bicycle. All those had been taken. She said, well, choose somebody that wants a scooter, because they'll be thrilled to have a bicycle instead of a scooter. So I'm going through, and I found 2 that wanted scooters, and I picked them up. She said, will you choose which one gets it? And so I chose the one. I put the other name down. When I went to hand her the card, there was 2 cards there. And I pulled them apart. Well, the one behind it wanted a bicycle. I'm like, woohoo! Guess who's getting a bicycle? So find ways that you can give to make people's lives better. Be aware, be awake, be alert to what's going on so that you bring the light to the world. When we worry about, is this the right present? And I had some problems, thinking if I pick the card and I don't get the kid the right thing, they're going to be disappointed. Was the kid going to be disappointed? I think it's all me, right? The kid will be thrilled with whatever they get because they got something. If they don't have enough food to eat, they're going to be thrilled with whatever they get. I bet. So we spend time needlessly driving ourselves crazy sometimes. Is that my phone? Know that we always live life from the inside out. So if we are aligned, if we have taken time to get ourselves in a good place for the holidays, for the day, for the week, whatever it is, it doesn't have to just be the holidays. But if we take time to align ourselves with the divine, to know that we are centered, harmonious, loving, and that's our intention for the day. That's what we're going to share with the world. We always live life from the inside out. So I invite you to take some time to make sure before the holiday ends that you go within and know how you want to show up for the holiday. Whether you're having a big celebration or you're celebrating by yourself. How are you going to treat yourself? How are you going to treat others around you? Are there people that need your kind word? That need you to reach out? The gift of your presence, just being with them. Not the present that would be wrapped up. If the divine spoke to you today, would you hear it? Would you actually hear God if God spoke to you today? Or is your mind so busy that you would never even hear? Because there's all these lists to do in your mind. All these worries that you have. For me, I wrote this talk and, well, you may not know. When I write a talk, it's really for me. You think it's for you, but it's really for me. And I got to this point, and it's like, would you hear the divine if the divine spoke to you? And I'm like, oh. So when God says, go to Parker, Colorado, I have a center there I want you to lead. And I'm saying, oh, but it's cold. Oh, but it's not Florida. Oh, but that's not in my plan. Go to Parker, Colorado. I have a center there I want you to lead. Oh, but I gave this talk in Parker, Colorado. It wasn't until I was up giving the talk that it dawned on me I was speaking to myself. If you hear the divine, would you even hear it? Would you know that you were hearing it? So the story is that there were these nomads that were traveling, and one night they were setting up their camp, and all of a sudden this bright light shone around them, and they got all excited because they knew this was a celestial being. There was going to be word from God. I didn't get the bright light. And so they listened with anticipation because they knew that Spirit was about to speak to them, and it would be wise and it would give them great insight. And they waited and waited, and the voice said, pick up some pebbles from the ground and take them with you. And they looked at each other and they were like, that's it? Pick up the pebbles on the ground and take them with you. Travel for 24 hours and you will find that you are both glad and sad. And then the light faded. And the nomads thought, what the heck? This can't be God. God wouldn't say something as stupid as this. Did you think this was God? I don't think so. Has God ever spoken to you like that? What do you mean pick up pebbles? And so they're arguing with each other, and they're really upset with this divine experience they've had because it wasn't what they wanted. But, they did have this experience, so they did pick up a few pebbles off the ground and put them in their saddlebags. They traveled the next day, and when they were setting up camp, they opened their saddlebags to pull out their equipment. And they saw that the pebbles had turned to diamonds. And they were happy that they had diamonds. They were sad they had not picked up more of them. Would we listen to the divine if it spoke to us today? And what if it said something like, pick up some pebbles and take them with you? Trust your intuition. Know that when Spirit speaks, we get to answer. We block our own good many times because we're not willing to listen and respond. So be aware. Be aware when Spirit is speaking to you so that you can move through life joyous, happy, and sharing love with all those around you. Can you do that this season? There are lots of opportunities for us to grow, to learn, to be, and to share. And do we do what we say we're going to do? One last story for you. There was a church that had a life-size manger scene. And so Christmas afternoon, the pastor was walking outside and admiring the large manger scene. And he noticed baby Jesus was gone. Oh my God, somebody had stolen baby Jesus. And so he takes out his cell phone. This is a recent story. He takes out his cell phone and he starts dialing 911 to report the theft. Well, before he punches call, he sees little Johnny coming down the street with a red wagon. And he's looking, what is he doing? And what's that in the back of the wagon? And the more he watched, the more he noticed that kind kind of looks like baby Jesus. And so the pastor walked over and said, "Hey, Johnny, how's it going?" I said, "Going great." He said, "What's in your wagon?" I said, "Oh, that's the baby Jesus." "Johnny, where did you get baby Jesus?" He said, "I got him over there in the manger scene." "Johnny, why do you have baby Jesus in your wagon?" He said, "Well, I'm making good on a promise." And the pastor stepped back. He said, "Well, what promise?" He said, "Well, I really, really, really wanted a red wagon for Christmas. And I told my mom and my dad, but I didn't think they were going to get me one. I even went and told Santa Claus that I really wanted a red wagon for Christmas, and I just wasn't sure I was going to get it. So about a week ago, I prayed to baby Jesus, and I told him that if he would make sure I got a red wagon for Christmas, I'd take him for a ride around the block. So I'm making good on my promise." Do we make good on our promises? Have you ever made a promise with Spirit, with God? Just get me out of this and I will. Maybe I'm the only one that's done that. I said I write this for myself, right? The baby Jesus, the Christ in the manger, represents our higher thoughts. And so in our teaching, metaphysical teaching, the birth of Christ is really the birth of our higher thoughts. It's welcoming the divine into our minds and aligning ourselves with Spirit. And as we do that, we change our lives because we go from focused on our humanness and our human experience to a much higher plane, to the divine living in us, as us, and through us. And that's what Christmas is about. Birthing that divine in us. Making good on the promises that we make. Help me, help me. Of course, that is the God outside of us, right? When we say those things. And it's birthing that idea, that knowledge that God is within each one of us. We reveal Spirit as we open our hearts, as we open our minds, and as we open our lives, to be aware, awake, and alert, to do for the world what we can do. Janice Stanfield has a song. She's a New Thought artist, and she has a song that says, "I cannot do all the good that the world needs, but the world needs all the good I can do." I hope you will do some good this holiday season. That you will take time to align yourself with Spirit, to birth the divine within you, the higher consciousness, to help you to live your highest and best life. Namaste.
Namaste.